Hey everybody, TJ here with a new video. This time we're discussing, after I get out of this party, hold on. There we go. So I had the idea to try and play Path of Exile again. I tried the game a couple years back and it just wasn't that great as far as a blind player's perspective. Fully blind, not metaphorically blind. And there was a couple improvements. The menus had more sound effects to indicate when you were doing something. However, the game itself just honestly felt very boring and bland compared to Diablo, like the start of Diablo 4. Now I know it's an older game and everything, but it brings up the point of I posted a thing to Reddit asking if PoE has had any accessibility updates or if PoE 2 has an accessibility discussion open with the developers or anything. And one of the first comments I got was essentially Diablo is a simpler game, so it's easier to translate, blah, 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 blah. Like, basically, some people, not everyone, of course, but I'm just using this one comment for an example. It doesn't mean it's everybody, and if that person sees this, it's not a dig at you. It's just the point of accessibility, as I understand it, is to incorporate features or settings that will enable a disabled player to play the game either as efficiently or almost as efficiently as a non-disabled player through those settings and features. As example, as a fully blind player, I can still do all the content in Diablo 4 or fighting game. Fighting games are inherently easier to make work, but the point is, with the accessibility featured in these games, Diablo 4, Last of Us, it's easy for a blind player to actually complete them or participate or whatever, and actually contribute and not just be the third wheel. Even though in Diablo it very easily does turn into a third wheel scenario of like, hey, I'm just following along, don't mind me. But that's mostly because the builds that we have currently, we don't have like optimized crap just yet. And so like the idea of like an ARPG title like PoE or Diablo, Grim Dawn, Last Epoch, whatever, or even MMOs like WoW or what's the other one, like Lost World or whatever. The point is like the accessibility of these games comes down to screen readers reading all your gear and stats like you need it to, and NPC like all the main stuff visually you can't determine, right? Unless you're taking a lot of screenshots and OCR. The main thing where a visual player may have an advantage as far as like they can see the elements would be like reacting to telegraph things. But even then, the audio is so well designed in Diablo that you can auditorily react to things and listen to. For example, there was an elite who was CCing me with an arrow, so I heard them knock the arrow and then I dodged it with the evade button. Like it, there's elements like that in this game, and I don't know. My opinion is that for ARPGs like this game or Path of Exile, is that all they need is integrated screen reader support, first party or third party, and past that, it's not as complicated as people think it would be to make them accessible to a flat blind player. All Diablo needed, okay, if we're looking at Diablo 3, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3, all it really needed was text to speech to read all the gear and stats, NPCs, all that text-based stuff in the map. And granted, Diablo 4 is a little more complex than D2 as far as like traversing the open world and all these other things as far as a blind perspective. However, the point still stands that that's all it needed. That's all a game like this does need for a fully blind player. And people are like, people have the idea of like Diablo's inherently a simpler game, so it's easier to translate for blind players to participate and play, blah, blah, blah. True. However, ARPGs in general aren't really that complicated or as hard as people think they are. PoE, of all the research I've done, it's not a inherently hard game to play. It's mostly just learning mechanics of bosses or mobs and adapting to those and outplaying those. And a lot of it, as well as onboarding the content. Every league there's a new mechanic, and the mechanic stays, and those are where PoE gets like the extremely complex, rap or whatever, and as well as just the idea of Diablo 4 is the first example of which we've had an accessible, like just pure just RPG game in general. D4 is the one I can think of. WoW does have accessibility tools or mods or whatever, but it's pretty much it. D4 and WoW, and it's like I would very much love PoE 2 to be accessible. The new Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate 3. I want games to be more accessible, especially RPGs. I love this genre. Because to be honest, like I love fighting games. Don't get me wrong, but even I'm like I need like other stuff to do because COD and shooters have not been that interesting, and I guarantee they're not going to have accessibility for them. Which for COD, I mean, it's not like you really need accessibility for COD. COD's really simple, but like the TTS for menus would be nice. And the X-Defiant, I have no idea how X-Defiant plays. I've never tried it. I never got my hands on it, so I have no idea. Um, and the other side of it is as well as that accessibility to me, and this is my philosophy. I'm probably in the minority here. Accessibility doesn't mean anything if the core gameplay or the game design is not well designed. Case in point, take Call of Duty. I love COD. I grew up with COD, and it's the first game I played after losing my vision completely, and the last game I played before going fully blind. COD will always be a part of my life. It's just my childhood. Like it's one of my things, right? But even though I pushed for years for the accessibility of the games to improve, they did here and there, little bits in here and there throughout the years, mostly with Treyarch improving stuff. But inherently speaking, the games have just gotten worse and worse over the years, and to the point where I don't see myself purchasing another COD until the next Treyarch game, because Treyarch are the ones who actually can get a decent COD, and they're the ones who actually look like they might try and put in accessibility. Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer, they're fine studios in their own right. They do their own thing, but I don't see them going for the accessibility. And yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see how things play out. But I don't know. It was just an interesting thought that popped in my head after receiving some stuff from on the PoE subreddit. Which again, it's not a slight against anybody. It was just an interesting thought that, in my opinion, accessibility is there to give us access to the tools that everybody else has, and then from there, it's up to the player to make it work, right? For example, in D4, blind party, we've partied up multiple times in the blind clan, and we've been able to clear dungeons. Like, we have cleared dungeons, we've made call-outs, hey, boss is staggered, hey, there's this thing northwest of here. Like, we do the same thing as a sighted player. It's just a bit slower because we can't see the map. But we can still find the objectives on the map because the TTS reads where the objectives are. Like, we still do the same content, just slower. The only thing I don't think we could reasonably do in this game is maybe Uber Lilith. Even Uber Lilith, I think there is a potential. It would just take an absurd amount of luck and an absurd amount of tries. However, I have faith somebody can do it eventually. If you guys enjoyed this content, this brief discussion, please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, as those help push the video out to other people. Maybe they're interested in hearing this topic. If you guys have any feedback, let me know. If you guys want to see more content, I mean, if you want to see Street Fighter Diablo, I'm thinking get more Street Fighter gameplay. I almost say gameplay, wrong word. Maybe some D4, maybe some like stream highlights from partying with other blind people. Case in point, let me just show this. All these people in this. It's about what, 30-ish, something like that, blind or vision impaired people in a clan on Diablo 4. That's the most amount of people I've seen on a game in a very, very long time. Now, yes, you can argue the fighting at BFGC is like, there's more people there, true. But as far as like all of us on one game consistently, this is the most I've seen, personally speaking. MK11 might be the closest second, just because MK11 brought a lot of people into the fighting game scene, right? So, I don't know, we'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time.